guys, welcome back to Sky Talks Books. My name is Sky and it's been a while and this is my August wrap-up. Not a lot of books, we're not going to be discussing a lot of books, but maybe that's good, maybe we can go more in depth. It was a weird month. Willow agrees. First, I'm gonna actually go in like chronological order of like the order that I read the books in. So you can come along on the journey with me. So first of all, we have Murder on the Yellow Brick Road by Stuart Kaminsky. And this was my attempt at doing Garb August, which is where you read garbage in August. And this is basically like a 70s kind of trashy detective novel. It's about a murder that takes place on the set of, what's the Yellow Brick Road in? There's the Tin Man with no heart, and there's a lion. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? No, The Wizard of Oz. It's got like, you know, old Hollywood vibes because it kind of stays true to, you know, Judy Garland is in it. And I was having like a real good time for maybe the first like 60 or so pages. And then it was very much, this is very much, and I don't want to get too into like stereotypes or sexism or something, but this is very much a bloke's book written for blokes. Okay, this is a bloke's book. And I'm simply not a bloke. You know, the main character is like this detective. You know, he's like a middle-aged detective and he's not very attractive, and yet he somehow immediately ends up sleeping with like the really hot young assistant for no real reason. Just, oh, scratch card and I want some money on it. And I was just like, oh, okay, right, sure. But yeah, it just wasn't my vibe, so I kind of gave up on the whole Garb August thing, because I am a quitter. Next, I read Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. I know that's a very depressing title of a book, but this was supreme. This book, 5-star, okay? And you know, sometimes I'm like, what's it all about? This whole book thing. Why am I reading books? Is it just another mindless source of entertainment to escape the meaningless of life and the emptiness inside? And then I read a book like this and there's this passages and there's lines that just open my eyes and my mind to parts of myself that I didn't know were there before. And I'm like, yeah, this is why I read, because if I die without ever truly getting to know myself, really knowing myself, if you die without getting to know yourself, what was the point? So this book was amazing. It is about this girl in her 20s, and she's gay, she's a lesbian, whichever word you prefer, and she has extreme hypochondria, extreme, I would say, attachment issues, extreme anxiety, some depression, and she gets a job at a church by accident, a Catholic church, because she sees a leaflet or like a flyer for free therapy. And she shows up and the priest there asks if she's there for the job, and because she has such a hard time saying no and with confrontation, she just says yes. So she ends up working as a secretary in this Catholic church, and they don't know that she's gay. And there's also like a kind of a murder mystery that she's trying to solve as well. And there's sort of a love story, but it's not I like that it's not the main focal point of the story. It's so funny. This book had me lolling, and it's also so tender and so poignant. And there's this one part where like the girl that she's seeing gives her a box of like Thin Mint cookies, you know, the Girl Scout cookies, only after the main character mentioning like one time that she liked those cookies, and she found it just like so heartbreaking that she can't even look at the cookies, so she has to like hide them away, because every time she looks at it she feels sad and she doesn't really know why, but it's just like that loving, gentle gesture just fills her with sadness. And it's like, wow, you know, sometimes love is painful not because of like heartbreak, but just because it's so hard sometimes to accept pure love. You know what I mean? Because you don't love yourself. So there's just little bits like that, and there's a lot about like family dynamic and I loved all the side characters. I just loved it. It was absolutely a 5-star read, and I will definitely be reading it again, and I want to purchase the book. Next, I read Heaven by Miyako Kawakami. And this is the second book actually from this author that I've read. It's a translated fiction from the Japanese to the English. And I first read Miss Ice Sandwich, which was a 5-star read for me. I'm going to be talking about that at the end of the year, probably, when I talk about all the books that I gave 5 stars. And this was a buddy read, which automatically, for me, if you're doing a buddy read with the right person, hopefully you are, I'm not going to be doing it like with your worst enemy or something, it automatically makes the reading experience that much better, like, and more... Yeah, that's just another aspect to reading that I really love, not just the, like, learning things about myself, but connecting with other people. Beautiful. Highly recommend. Yeah, and so this book is about these 2 teenagers that are getting bullied. Now, here's the thing, I don't like the word bully, or bullied, or bullying, because it's like, oh, okay, so when it's an adult doing these things to another adult, it's abuse. But when it's kids or teenagers, we have this kind of cutesy, even the onomatopoeia of the word bullying. It's just, it's not a very harsh sounding word, and it can mean anything from like calling someone 4 eyes to like kicking the living daylights out of them. You know what I mean? So I think we should, like, I would love for everyone to start calling bullying abuse, but that's probably a big like reset that will probably never happen. Yeah, so it's kind of, it's about a friendship between these 2 teenagers who are being bullied, both for different reasons, and just how they both deal with it and how they're supporting each other. I love their friendship. It's so, like, it's so beautiful and authentic, and just, I love it. And I feel like the author did a very good job of writing about mental health, mental illness, and the effects of bullying on the psyche. Like, the main character, you know, if you know anything about trauma or mental illness, you can see that he's clearly heavily dissociated, and, you know, it deals with eating disorders and like self-harm, and so trigger warning. The only thing I didn't really love about it, and this was just my qualm, I feel like some of the characters were a bit too philosophical and aware for their age. So yeah, I would definitely read more of this author's books, because I loved Ice Sandwich, Miss Ice Sandwich. I loved it a lot more than Heaven, but I did love Heaven. And she has another book called like Breasts and Eggs or something? Breasts and Milk? Eggs and Bacon? I don't know, I'll put it here. Well, now next, I read Orlando by none other than Virginia Woolf. Wowie. There was just so, from the very get-go, oh, sorry, that was harsh. From the get-go, I was like, yep, Virginia Woolf is a literary genius. And it's not often that you can say that. Because I read Mrs. Dalloway earlier in the year, and I did enjoy it, but it didn't give me that same genius vibes that this gave me. So I had a really amazing time reading this. If you don't know, it's kind of like a, I'll just read you the back. Sometimes I'm very poor at explaining things. As his tale begins, Orlando is a passionate young nobleman whose days are spent in rowdy revelry, filled with the colourful delights of Queen Elizabeth's court. So it's kind of like historical fiction a little bit. By the close, he will have transformed into a modern woman, and 3 centuries will have passed. Orlando is Woolf's most extraordinary creations, and through him we see an intimate portrait of history in the making. And yeah, ain't that the truth? I will say, it could have been shorter. I know. Me telling Miss Woolf that, hey, your masterpiece could have been a bit shorter. That is just purely a personal thing. For me, I felt like it dragged a little bit, kind of in the middle end. And it really felt like she was in a very different frame of mind from when she started the book to when she finished it. And I was getting a little bit annoyed and aggravated, because I had such positive, amazing feelings starting off, and I wanted those feelings to carry on all the way through the book, and I was like, I don't want to... Because I'm always sort of thinking about what I'm going to rate the book after I've read it. I don't know if that's like a toxic trait. But so I didn't like kind of thinking, okay, am I going to be able to fully, in all truth, rate this 5 stars if at times I find it a bit hard to pick up. Like, her writing isn't the most easy breezy, beautiful cover girl writing. It's thick. She's thick. I mean, beautiful, astounding, iridescent, but but not a breeze. It's not easy. And I heard that To the Lighthouse is like way harder. So, but I want to read her full body of work. So we'll see how that goes. Next, okay, little preface for the next book, because it might be a little bit, you know, out of pocket, out of left field. Some mornings I wake up and just from the moment I open my eyes, I'm just like, aliens, you know? Obsessed, hyperfixated. I need to know if they exist. I kind of know that they do, but I need to know more. So I was having one of those days, but this particular day, just aliens on their own, just, it wasn't enough. So I needed more. I needed Mothman. so basically what happened was I was like Googling books about, like I was looking through a list of like books about aliens and other such things, and this book called The Mothman Prophecies came up, and I read the blurb and I was like, wow, I have to read that. That is amazing. So yeah, this is nonfiction, just so you know. West Virginia, 1966. For 13 months, the town of Point Pleasant, what a name, is gripped by a real-life nightmare that culminates in a tragedy that makes headlines around the world. Strange occurrences and sightings, including bizarre winged apparitions that become known as the Mothman, trouble this ordinary American community. Mysterious lights are seen moving across the sky. Domestic animals are found slaughtered and mutilated. And journalist John Keel, arriving to investigate the freakish events, soon finds himself an integral part of an eerie and unfathomable mystery. That just hits all the spots for me. Yeah, then I just became very obsessed about the Mothman. And I was talking to my therapist the same day, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on with me. Like, sometimes I just become very obsessed with aliens, and such things. And I don't know if it's healthy. And she was like, that's actually really healthy. And I was like, oh, plot twist. And she told me about this other client that she had, which I don't like when she does that. But anyway, and she was like, yeah, he had schizophrenia. And the only time he was able to manage his schizophrenia was when he was researching and obsessing about and trying to find Bigfoot. And I was there like all smug, like, weirdo. Like, the nerve of me. Here I am obsessed about Mothman, which no one has ever heard of. And at least his is like an iconic figure, you know, in pop culture. Bigfoot, you know? So the moral of the story is, like, one person's Bigfoot is another person's Mothman, you know? Is that the moral of the story? Yeah. Or I need a new therapist, I don't know. Anyway, this book was fun. Honestly, nothing to rave about. I apologize for what's about to come, because I may be angry. Next, I decided to have a little palate cleanser, okay? My Mothman hyperfixation was over. I was returning a little bit to my prior self. And so, if you're familiar with the channel, you know that I like to read kids' books, or like grade school books, as a little palate cleanser. So I read The Merman by Dick King-Smith, and he also wrote Babe, the sheep pig. I haven't read that, but I saw the movie. Now this little treat is quite simply pedophile propaganda. And I'm surprised it ever got published, and I think nobody should read this to their kids. No kids should read this. So it's about this little girl, she's 11, and she goes, I'm so angry. She goes on holiday with her parents to a little town in like Scotland or Wales or somewhere. Sorry, I've probably offended so many people. I'm not saying Scotland is like Wales or Wales is like Scotland, but I just truly can't remember, and it's not important. What's important is she sees a merman in the water one day. And he's like hundreds of years old, but he looks young and hot and hunky. I'm extrapolating a little bit, but really that was the vibe. He looks super young. He's all like, get in here. And she's all like, I can't swim. And he's all like, I'll teach you, but you're not allowed to tell your parents. Don't even tell them that I exist. And she's like, are you sure? I'm scared. And he was like, nothing bad will happen to you. And also everything I tell you will stay in your mind forever. And I will also do this weird spell that means that your parents won't wake up until you are out of the water again. And she's like, okay, sounds great. So they basically, for all intents and purposes, just kind of start a little romantic love affair throughout the summer. Like, truly, this merman is obsessed with her. He sends her like messages in a bottle. He sends like these seagulls as messengers. and she's like, you know, I'm not gonna be here forever, I'm just here for the summer. And he's like, well, I migrate down south anyway, I'm gonna be going to France. And she's like, well, will you come back next year? And he's like, only if you do. I'm sorry, that's romantic, that's weird. That's weird. And I thought all the way through, I was like, okay, it's gonna get to the end and like something terrible is gonna happen to her and the parents are gonna be like, see, this is why if a strange man tells you to go to into the water with him, you should tell us. You should tell us about men that you're talking to. But that never happened. This is worse than Lolita because, you know, Lolita is a book for adults. It's for adults and it's very clear that pedophilia is wrong. Is it a totally messed up, sick, hard to read book? Yeah. But we're adults and we understand it. This is a guide for kids on how to be groomed. And I'm not the only one who felt this way. You know, you just have to go on Goodreads and look up reviews of this and most people are shocked. Okay, it didn't help that the drawings are creepy as heck. Look at this. Look at this. Look at him there. Lounging. This is just before she gives him a necklace that she bought. She saved up all her pocket money and bought him a necklace and he cherishes it forever. Why couldn't this have been written that she does tell her parents? And the parents learn to swim as well. The parents also can't swim. So he could have done like a 3-for-1 kind of deal and taught them like a family thing. Why were the parents not allowed to? Society is just so drenched. Okay, anyway, 1 star, wouldn't recommend. And yeah, I wish that I could say I ended on a better note after that, but then I read Assembly by Natasha Brown. I honestly can't even be bothered talking about it. It was so disjointed, and I guess it just wasn't for me. I'm not gonna say it's trash, it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the writing style. It was so detached that I just didn't care what was happening to anybody. It was written in these weird, out of place, like little paragraphs. I think the main character had cancer, I'm not really sure. Okay, there was some bits that I enjoyed. So it's about a black woman in England who works in finance, and her boyfriend is like this white Oxford aristocratic wealthy guy with this wealthy family, and he invites her to like his parents' wedding anniversary, like their grand garden party, you know, aristocratic thing, I don't know, whatever. And I think she has cancer. I don't know. I think she does. I think she has cancer, but it's not really a big part of the story. And also, like, that sounds good, right? But very little of it is actually about the garden party and the boyfriend. But yeah, I don't know, just wasn't for me. I know a lot of people like this book. It was short, but it felt really long, and I honestly skipped a lot of it, so. So yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. We've covered a lot of ground. Not necessarily a lot of books, but a lot of ground. Thank you so much for being with me today and every day. This isn't goodbye, this is just see you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe. I've tired myself out with all my chattering. Impossible. Impossible. I have so much more chatter left in me.